L.R.B.com.
L.R.B. Aquatics.
Yeah, hello world. I hope you're doing great. If you're not, I hope it gets better for you. Welcome to Friday Fish Facts. I'm your host, Ron DeSantis. And if you didn't know from the intro, we have got L.R.BRETZ'S on with us today. Lucas, thank you so much for joining me today, my friend.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Hello, world. Hope you guys are all doing great tonight.
So tonight is Wednesday, so that's your shipping day. So I assume you've been doing a lot of work today over at the house.
So actually what we do is we gather everything up Tuesday night and we ship out during Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon.
Okay.
And so really it's just the boxing part we do on Wednesdays. And usually that's not as bad as gathering. Gathering usually takes a while.
I bet, especially with planted tanks.
Yeah.
All those fish, right?
Oh, yeah. That's why I don't do a lot of hardscapes in my tanks, because trying to catch the fish and shrimp around all the hardscape can be a real challenge.
I bet.
The plants aren't so bad because you can actually, like the shrimp, you can bait them towards the front where they'll come to the front of the tank and you can swoop them up a lot easier. And then fish are usually hungry and they'll come to the top. So they're not too bad.
Did you have a lot of orders to do this week?
We had around 30, which is about average.
Okay, cool. Yep. So you're coming up to Canada pretty soon, I think, like July 21st. But yeah. You're heading over to Windsor. What are you doing up there?
Yeah. So that's this weekend. I'm going to be giving a talk up there, and then I'll be going and checking out some fish rooms. They said they had some lined up for me, which will be real cool to see how the Canadians do it up there.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's how we do, man. I'm over on the West Coast, but
oh, so you are up in Canada, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Vancouver, about 2.5 hours north of Aquarium Co-op. It takes me to get there.
Yeah, I remember meeting you. You went to the AGA, didn't you?
I did, but unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to meet you.
Okay.
But, it would have been cool if I did, but
where was I met you at? Was that Aquashella?
Never.
I thought I met you before.
I just have that face, man. People think
maybe you do.
People think I look like
Jimmy Fallon. So
people think I look like Jimmy Fallon. They call me Fish Fallon.
That's funny. I can see that.
Okay, well let's get started. If you folks out there are not familiar with the interview style that we do here, is I go through some questions that I've got for our guests, and if you've got questions, you pop them up in the chat there, and we will get to those as well. So, December 3rd, 2011, 7 years ago, you started YouTube. By January 31st, 2016, you had 102 tanks and ponds at around 3,000 gallons. Now you're north of 300 tanks. How did you get this started? What was your very first fish?
So my very first fish, I can't even remember. I would say it was co-keeping with my dad as a goldfish. He had Oscars and stuff before then. Actually killed some of his Oscars as a kid, thinking that they were thirsty, gave them some Kool-Aid. They don't like Kool-Aid. Learned that as a kid. But then I would collect stuff like outside in creeks and ponds and stuff like that. But I always remember having this goldfish that my dad kept for like 12 years or so. And that's like the first fish I really remember as far as like keeping. And then I had like some rummy noses and stuff like that in senior year. And then I got out of the hobby for a little while.
Senior year high school?
Yeah, senior year in high school. And then I had to go to college full time. Then I worked full time at the same time. So that was really rough to even think about keeping a fish tank. But once I got done with that, then I ended up getting another fish tank. And then I learned that you could put plants in it. And that was around probably about 2010, 2011. Then once I learned you could put plants in it, game over. Creating all these little ecosystems made fish breed easier. That's when I started getting into actually breeding fish. Golden Wonder Achilles was one of the first ones, was the first fish I bred. And that was in a planted 10-gallon tank, and that really hooked me as well. And I was actually in another relationship with somebody at that time. I don't think they really cared for me gathering up a bunch of tanks in a 2-bedroom apartment. So we kind of broke up from that. And I took a little hiatus and still had like a tank here and there that I would travel around with. But then it was like maybe, say, 7, 8 years ago, I really started getting back into it with like the shrimp and stuff like that. Turned a 2-bedroom apartment into a fish room. So 1 bedroom was a fish room, and the other one I actually did sleep in. I did have a bed in, but once we moved from there and got into a house, ended up with 14 tanks, and then everything kind of snowballed from there.
So you had 14 tanks in the condo, and then you took those 14 tanks over to the house, and then it started going like that?
Yeah, so it was a rental apartment I was in, and then we got really lucky with this short sale on the house that we got, and yeah, I took 14 tanks over here, and then we decided to have a kid and a son.
Yeah.
And working construction, what I was making then would have been about the same as I'd be paying for daycare. So I'd be working to pay for daycare and would never get to see my son. So that made no sense to me. So I started picking up jobs on the side doing construction, and then I was working the fish tank stuff, which I was kind of working before then. So I had a big name over on Facebook doing it. But then Facebook has issues where if you post too much, they'll think you're a spamming bot. So there was times where they thought I was a spamming bot. They banned me. There's no customer service, so you can't tell them you're a real person trying to help people out.
Yeah.
And so that's actually what moved me over to YouTube here, and I started doing that. And then trying to blend all that in together, staying at home with my child and stuff like that. I kind of had to move my tanks up, braid more like shrimp, fish, plants, and stuff like that to actually make it more sustainable to be able to do what I want. And that, I'm so addicted to it. So it's not like building it too is part of the addiction, as well as keeping the tanks.
So
like fish racks and like, ooh, I can fit this here and I can keep this here and all that stuff. That can be an addiction too sometimes.
Actually, I was going to ask you what you did before you got into doing L.R.B. Aquatics, because, you know, there's videos of you making your own stands and stuff like that. So I was wondering where the handiness came from. What type of construction were you doing?
So I actually did a lot of residential and commercial property. So there's really not a whole lot I can't really build and fix.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's kind of handy to have that knowledge for sure.
So when did the L.R.B. Aquatics start? And how did you get that thing going online, like selling the fish and plants?
It was after Facebook, because I used to do it all mostly through Facebook page groups, which now you can't even sell them, which is really crazy. Yeah. And Messenger. So I was constantly getting messages and stuff like that all the time. That's why a big reason I'm burnt on messages now is from back then, because it was just madness. And then they banned me the second time for 2 weeks, and I had to do something. So that's when I jumped on YouTube and started sharing it. And I thought it'd be kind of vain to not share what I learned too.
Yeah.
And have to do all this and go through that process, because there's not a whole lot of people who have went down this road as a hobbyist, and to not be able to share it. And it's a lot easier to share with video than it is like pictures on Facebook or a group like that. So YouTube is definitely a better journal for it. And glad I did.
There's probably also more truth in YouTube videos. Like, it's harder to hide stuff that you don't want people to see.
Yeah.
Photo, right?
Yeah, you can't hide stuff, and you shouldn't hide stuff. I mean, that just makes your life difficult when you try to hide stuff.
So when did the Dutch aquarium start? Like, some of your aquariums there are like the filterless style. You don't do water changes in some of those tanks for a long time. Like, how did you get like all that going?
So while I was moving around between that relationship, I went through a couple different places I lived, and I had a tank that I kept for like 6 months or so. Hardly did any water changes. Did great. Had like some subwater tang in it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of made me realize I didn't really need an air stone filter and all that stuff. And then keeping my ponds outdoors has solidified it more too, with having ponds out in nature and not having any types of air stones or anything like that to actually filter it or even move the air out, and just seeing how great the fish are doing out there and how they breathe. So it's I don't know, it just became to a point where it's just not a necessity. I think us as humans think fish need air because we breathe air.
Yeah.
But I mean, they live in water, so I mean, I don't see many air stones or air bubblers out in creeks and ponds and stuff. Granted, I'll say ponds. Granted, creeks do have water flow and circulation that it does get some aeration, but not in all spots for sure.
There's a comment here as we bounce over to the chat here from Zach SC Fish Keeping. He says the idea of filterless water changeless tank baffles me. Sounds like a dream I can't achieve. So what would you give a person like Zach for a tip to start doing a Dutch aquarium?
I'm really glad he brought this up, because that's probably what I run into the most is like, oh, he can do it because he's advanced hobbyist. He's done it for so long. When in actuality, people just have to put their faith into Mother Nature, who has been doing this forever, and she will take care of it. Like, you have to create the ecosystem, yes. So that's like your substrate or whatever, your media for your plants and that, whatever. Even I have tanks that have nothing but EcoComplete, nothing else, and have big colonies of fish in it without airstone, without anything. So I don't even think plants is even necessary for a filterless tank. Now, if you do have imbalances, that's when you'll get algae, which is like Mother Nature's great equalizer. So if you have too much ammonia in there or something of the sort, then the algae will actually start appearing, and that's what will start balancing your tank from that. But you definitely need a cycled tank for sure. That's all you really need, which that's with any new tank. So it's not a hard thing to achieve.
Would you say EcoComplete's the best substrate?
No. I actually like sand.
Yeah.
The only problem is not all my fish look the best on the sand that I like. So I like the EcoComplete for the color contrast too.
3.5 years ago was the first time you started, like I said earlier, you started doing YouTube videos 7 years ago, but 3.5 years ago was the first time I believe that you appeared on camera. You were doing a walkthrough with your house. So what took you so long to appear on camera?
So yeah, I don't know. I was kind of shy. I won't lie. I'm an Indiana Midwest guy, so small town, so we kind of have that built-in shyness to us when it comes up to like the whole world and just putting yourself out there. And as far as like when I did start my YouTube 2011, it was mostly just to post stuff to planedtank.net, the forum back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's why it took me so long to actually do a video for that. But then to actually show my face in it, I don't know. I just had to work myself up into it. I think many of us go through that for sure.
So if you've got over 300 tanks in your house, you have a wife and you have a son, Wesley. How involved is Sarah in fish before you guys met compared to now?
So before we were met, like, she was totally not into them. I don't think she ever had a fish tank before then. Like, she may have went fishing before with her stepdad or something, but that's about as far as that went.
Yeah.
But I did end up getting her to get a 20-gallon and a 10-gallon when we were in the apartment. So I did get her into it, and she did enjoy it a bit. But the maintenance was a bit for her, and I ended up kind of taking over her tanks too. So
sounds familiar. Sounds familiar to my situation. Yeah.
Yeah. But then now, I mean, she loves them. I heard many a times I had too many fish tanks.
Yeah.
That's how I really got to know if she truly loved me or not. I just kept bringing them up. But now she's all aboard. She's been doing a lot of our administration work and stuff like that, which has been great because I haven't been able to keep up on top of it.
Well, I just want to say a shout out to Sarah, because if it wasn't for Sarah, this interview wouldn't have been happening, because Sarah reached out, and after I had reached out, told me how to contact you, and we've been emailing back and forth. So thanks very much, Sarah, for making this happen.
Yes, that's 100% true.
We've got a question here from Jess Shrimp Granny, and I think I know the video she's referring to because I saw it too. It popped up. I saw a video about how mulm is evil and people shouldn't buy into it. Since I've been changing water and not vacuuming mulm, the fish shrimp love it. What do you say to the naysayers?
That don't believe in mulm?
Yeah, that think you need to get rid of it all.
I would say, well, I don't want to say get rid of it all because it'll kill their fish. I've been there before. I've tried to clean a tank so clean that I got all the mulm out of it, and the fish do not like it. Fish just do not like it. So all I gotta say is be careful with that ideology, because you can end up killing your fish.
Another question that you probably had people ask you. I mean, every Friday night you're doing Q&A, but I'm wondering if anyone's ever asked you this question before. Your orange Callaway hat. Are you a golfer?
So I have done some golfing in my life.
You have, eh?
It's been a while since I've golfed. My girlfriend's stepdad actually works on a golf course too. So yeah, I used to golf for some beer money back in the day.
Golf for beer money, so you're pretty good. Like how low is your handicap at your peak?
Depends on the day, really. My buddy was actually better than I was, and we usually play by the stroke. So I was good at the short game. He was better at the long game. We kind of utilized each other on that one.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I always wondered. I'm like, he's got to be into golf with that wearing the Callaway hat all the time. He's got to be. That's good, man. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question.
What's the hardest fish you've ever bred?
The hardest fish I ever bred? I would say these unidentified Peruvian tetras that I have here. Yeah. Just because tetras tend to be a struggle for me because, I don't know, I've always had hard water. So in the mindset of tetras being more intangible for me to breed, it was always in there. But now that I have softer water, I can do it more. So I don't know. When it comes to difficulty of breeding fish, I don't know. That's a real kind of tangible question.
Has anything, or have you worked for months on something and not been able to breed something? Or worked for months and finally got something to breed?
It took me a while to get the mascara barbs to get going.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is just not having the proper setup too, is kind of half doing it.
Okay.
So if I really was going for 100% going for it, then usually it gets accomplished. But if I'm only going half in, then I'm not executing well. So I think that's something to keep in mind. If you do plan on breeding something, go in all the way on how it really should be done. And that's recreating the habitat with types of plants that they come from, the type of like sand and ecosystem. Is it rocky bottom? Is it sand bottom? What are they used to living in? What would make them feel more comfortable to breed?
What's the hardest plant that you've had to keep alive?
That's I would definitely have to say the blood vomit. I don't know if you ever heard of the blood vomit.
No. Oh yeah.
I've heard of that. Plant, and it gets red at Trithernia, something like that, species blood.
Yeah.
It really needs a deep substrate. So I think it needs acidic water, it needs that CO2, and it needs a deep substrate. So I was never able to really set that up properly. And one plant I always wanted to keep, but always kept killing.
Well, hey, I mean, that happens.
Right. You got to test them out, man.
Exactly.
Because you never know. They may go for you. Like some people it may work for, some people it may not work for.
So when you first kind of like got hooked back into the hobby, it was with plants. And then after that, I've seen that you've said it was shrimp. So what is your favorite shrimp?
I would have to say the blue wizards, which is a blue morph of the red cardinal Sulawesi shrimp.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah, they're really cool, but they're super expensive and rare. Aaron Lee, I believe, has some overseas that you can get, but I think they're like $50 a piece.
Yeah, that's up there.
But it really isn't bad considering.
Yeah,
and he's got he's got a decent line, like as far as the way they breed out and stuff. I just haven't pulled the trigger on them. Cardinal shrimp are one of my favorites, and I have gotten them to breed. They're just super slow breeding and
not many eggs too, right?
Yeah, not many eggs, and I don't know if I was doing it 100% properly. So
I've got a question here. We'll jump back into the chat from Kendall. That's Otter Creek Aquatics. He says, have you ever worked with discus when you had your hard water? One of the most heated discus topics, but there's a store in my area that uses straight hard tap water and has discus thrive. What are your thoughts on that?
So I personally haven't done it, but I do know people who do it. Even Jack Watley discus will even say you can keep them in hard water. I think a lot of it is discus or cichlids. and they do have the behaviors of cichlids. And I think this is where people get confused and blame it on the water, because they will pick at each other when you're not looking. And this has caused issues on them, which causes infections, and then we blame it on the water, or we blame it on a disease or something like that. So I do know a lot of people who keep them in hard water, and here we do have a local store too that keeps them in hard water.
We've got another golf question in the chat here from Cichlids23. Who are you pulling for to win the Open this weekend?
I have no idea. I don't follow any sports anymore. I just don't have time to do it. I used to play all kinds of sports, baseball, basketball, football, track, all that stuff. But now I just don't have the time to deal with it. And it's forever changing, so I can't keep up with it.
The number one video that you have as far as views goes, last I checked, was 173,000. And that was touring Michael Sizemore's fish room. What was it like to check out his?
Oh man, his setups are sweet. His setups are definitely sweet. He is a master at what he does, and he keeps them so clean, so clean. But yeah, I probably need to go back down there and check him out. Actually,
speaking of fish room tours, what was your highlight from checking out the Ohio Fish Rescue?
Oh man, the highlight there, I would probably say swimming in with the big fishes.
Yeah, the one where Wesley filmed that one, right?
Yeah, I would say both of them. When I got to swim in the big tank, and then I got to swim in the pool. Definitely.
Okay,
yeah. But yeah, Wesley's little fish room tour, that was adorable.
Is there fish there that you didn't know what they were before you got there? Because you're not working with big fish that often, right?
Yeah. So there's actually quite a bit of them that I've never seen before, like the Abba, which was really cool. And then the Tigrinus, I've never seen those. The African not the African arowana, I've never seen one of those before.
Oh, because they're banned in the U.S., right?
I'm not sure.
I think they might be. Oh no, that's the Asian arowana.
Yeah, that's the Asian. I think the Africans are like a fish.
You've done a lot of fish room tours. You've been West Coast. You're hanging out with Corey. You've done the Ohio Fish Rescue. Who have you not met yet that you'd like to meet?
That's a really good question, actually. I have always...
It doesn't have to be a YouTuber, just anyone who's really into the fish hobby.
Well, I have always wanted to go over to Rachel O'Leary's. You
haven't met Rachel?
I have met Rachel, but I haven't been over to her fish room. We've talked about it. There's been a couple times where it's just usually bad timing because she was either going to the same event when I was going to be around or something else. So I would like to check her place out sometime. And then, like, really any of those farms, that Aquatics farm, that, what's his name?
The Wild Fish Tanks, Ryan, the Lucky Schmuck. He was down there.
He did a video of those. Yeah, that was a really cool place. And then there was a place down in Texas, that farm that Corey did as well.
Yeah.
That was really neat. But really, off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody right now. Other
than me, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. How many are you up to now?
How many? What's that?
How many tanks are you up to now?
Just 9.
9? Just 9? That's still quite a bit.
Keeping it modest over here. I've expanded. I had 5 until, I don't know, recently. And then, things start breeding and you need tanks to, put them in, right? You can't.
Yeah, that's how it begins. That's how it keeps rolling.
Yeah, I mean, you get a big tank and you've got fish that are going to eat the little fish that you also like. So then you get some other tanks, and you know how it is.
Oh yeah, that's how I got here.
How many cats do you have, and do you have any other animals besides?
I got 5 cats, and then I guess I got a couple pet coons outside too. Raccoon's been turning my big pond into a hot tub lately.
I got another comment here from SC Fish Keeping. Petco $1 per gallon, you mean? Well, yeah, I did pick up one this last weekend. But we don't have Petcos here, so I was down. I had to cross down into the States to grab it. But that was lucky number 9. I actually guess I have 10, but I'm giving one of them away. It's just a little tank. So
what kind of fish stores do they have in Canada? Do they have any box stores like Petco or Pet Supply Plus or anything?
Yeah, PetSmart. PetSmarts. That's like the biggest one, and then there's a one called Big Al's that used to be out here. Now there's only a couple left, I think. They're over on the East Coast, and it's more smaller ones. Like there's quite a few small ones around here. Brendan Flynn, he works Flynn's Fish Forum. He works one near me. So
does he? That's awesome.
Yeah, he just started.
He's a good kid.
Yeah, he is. He just started working there.
That's cool.
I went in there one of his first days that he was working there, and then he texted me later, "Hey, did I tie the bag okay on the top?" I'm like, "Yeah, you did a great job, man."
That's funny. I actually shopped with Big Al's quite a bit.
Oh, you did, right?
Really good online prices for us.
That's awesome. The online game is it's very minimal here as far as like shipping fish and stuff like that. It's super expensive. It's kind of like $100 minimum just for the shipping. So it's a lot more efficient for me to drive down across the border, pick stuff up, come back. Especially if I'm going to like I've been to Bentley's house a couple of times and got some stuff from him. And shout out to Bentley getting his 3,000 subscribers. I just saw that video today too. Or like hitting the co-op or something like that.
Yeah, congrats, Bentley.
Yeah.
Do you ever get any troubles with getting between customs with that?
Well, I had never had a problem before bringing fish over, and I just brought fish over again. But when I was down at AGA, I brought a bunch of plants over, and I'm not going to do that again. Even though they let me keep them, they still hauled me in, and they didn't know what anything was. So then they had to Google everything, and one by one, and we're in there, and it took forever. And
you had to wait for a special guy to come in and all that too.
Yeah, and then he didn't know what was going on, and then
that's what I usually hear with that kind of scenario. And since I'm going to Canada this weekend, it would be it's good to hear the stories. So I don't know if I'll end up bringing anything back or not.
Well, it's usually easier to bring stuff into Canada than into the U.S. because the ban list is a lot higher going into the U.S. than it is coming into Canada.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, so you can bring stuff to sell, but like those, you know what I really like? I don't even know if you have them anymore, but your black, blue, German pastel white, black, white.
Yeah, you know what? I had a great colony of those. It was going pretty good, and then I ended up getting some what I thought better ones from the AGA contest that I actually won, which they were better and they were beautiful, but they didn't breed for me at all. So I got rid of my pastels that were breeding great for me, and then ended up bringing in some that didn't breed too good for me. So now I don't have any. I have like maybe a pair. I have a male and a young female.
And they're not breeding for you.
No.
No, that's too bad.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite fish?
I can't have a favorite. That's an impossible question. Impossible. I couldn't even tell you a favorite type.
What about Wesley's? Can you tell me his favorite fish?
No, because I don't think he has a favorite either. He really loved the Lucipinus, the little catfish, the Synodontis Lucipinus. Yeah. He's a big fan of those, and then the discus and angelfish. He really likes a lot of them. We are actually planning on setting him up his own tank here soon.
When your breeding video of the Synodontis lucipinus, as I say that like that, I've got Petricolas very similar, but I had actually watched that video to help teach myself how to breed things. So you're teaching people all the time, man.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's what I try to do. I try not to fluff things up too much and really just get information out there for people.
Okay, well, we got a couple more questions here on favorites. So favorite fish, you can't answer that one. Wesley too. Plant, can you answer favorite plant?
Pearlweed, probably pearlweed for sure, because it's so versatile, really easy to grow. You can set it like a moss. You can plant it like a bush. You can carpet it and cut it, and you can even float it on the top of the water. So you really do about everything with it.
What about your favorite types of videos to make?
Oh, my favorite types of videos to make? Like as far as like making the videos, I want to say like I really enjoy it immensely, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's probably why I don't push out a lot of videos. I lie. Live videos are my favorite to make, for sure. Because it's up, it's live, it's real. You show people what's going on. But some projects you can't just go live because they do take days and stuff like that. Yeah. But like to manage all the media and all that and the edit and all that, that's not my favorite cup of tea, but it's more of a process I have to do.
I'm with you on that. I'm not in love with the editing thing either, but you know, it is what it is.
When I do get into it though, I do have fun with it. When I do get into the editing and actually get myself down to do it, I do try to have fun with it, with like the different clips or throwing a butt in there or something, like something just to mess with people.
So what do you use for editing software?
So I used to use the Windows Movie Maker. I think that was what it was.
I use iMovie, which is
yeah. Well, that was the free one that was on the the Windows, and I loved it. And then now I'm all Apple, so I have to use iMovie, and then I got Final Cut Pro too. But I usually do it all in iMovie because it's pretty much the same as Final Cut Pro, unless you're like really trying to put some crazy cinematic stuff in there. But having a fish channel, I don't think a lot of that is necessary either. I see a lot of people who do put that kind of stuff into their videos, but then they end up getting the same kind of views and stuff like that. So I think it's more about the information in the community when it comes to this hobby and stuff.
I agree with you there. I could spend a bunch of time editing something and it's probably not going to get that many more views. And it's not what I'm passionate about. So I'd rather just do things that I'm passionate about, because I'm not trying to do this for a career. I'm just trying to do this for fun. So I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing stuff I'm not in love with. Now, I'm not asking if somebody went up to you and said, hey, Lucas, I want to make some money breeding fish. What fish should I breed? I'm not asking that question. I'm asking for you, what has been the best fish to breed for profit?
For me, the best fish to breed for profit would be any Inler or guppy, just because they constantly breed out. And it's actually, guppies are one of the #1 sold fish in the hobby. So there's always high demand for them. They're kind of like trading cards. People like to keep different strains and all that stuff. And definitely the Inlers and guppies.
Are discus, for someone who keeps discus, are discus as difficult to keep as people say?
No, definitely not. Like, if you can see behind me, I've got an 8-foot tank here, 240. It's got, I don't know how many discus in it, but there's no filter in there. There's catfish in there. There's rainbow fish in there. There's tetras, danios, flakos, panagaras, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, they're pretty easy.
And how often do you do water changes on that tank?
About once a week.
Okay.
It depends on if I was fighting green water or not. Now it's kind of balancing itself out because I've taken a lot of the excess plants that have died off. I had a lot of organics breaking down in there, but now most of that is out and starting to balance out. So
nice.
Excited about that.
How did you meet Hayley from Oddball Aquatics?
So I actually met her at a club meeting. She is a Circle City Aquarium Club member, and she came up to me. I made a video where I said I was looking for some help, and then she offered her help, and I gave her a test trial, and she shared kind of my OCD on how, because when you have this many tanks, like I have a lot of them broken down in zones. So this hose is for this tank, this, that, and other. I'm really adamant about how you clean them and stuff like that. And she got along and on board with that, and it worked out well. And yeah, she's been great. She's been taking really good care of this fish room and kicking its butt. And she helps me as a person too, because she's got a real will to live, and she's just a happy person. Well, sort of.
Check out her channel too there, Oddball Candy, and we'll probably post it on there. K-Town Reefer is wondering, how many gallons is the water change in the 8-foot tank?
We usually, actually lately, we've been going all the way down to 90%. So I would say we're changing about 200 plus gallons each time we do it. But that's because we're trying to balance it. Once the water stays more clear, which probably won't happen until I get all the painted gars out of it because they constantly kick stuff up. In that tank, I put like this, what I called substrate lasagna, which is like a little bit of every substrate out there, even like backyard dirt. So I have wood chunks and organics coming out of it, stems and whatnot. And as it breaks up over time, and then those painted gars are always kicking it up. It's been a bit of a battle, but I think once it balances out more, we'll do smaller water changes. So it's you got to read your tank too.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I need to do 50% each time or whatever. Sometimes some tanks may want more than that, depending on their quality and water quality, which you can usually tell visually.
Another question here: do you use tap water or RO?
So I use RO for everything right now. I'm thinking about throwing some tap water into my neocaridina tanks. As time has gone by with just that RO water, yeah, I just don't feel like I'm getting the numbers that I should be with my neocaridinas anymore.
Okay.
So I may end up switching that back in. I just worry about using my tap water because arsenic and cyanide and other things are permitted in tap water, and they do have levels of that. I've gotten reports of it. And so I don't know if the RO machine can actually filter any of that out. I don't even know that. But yeah, I don't know. It scares me to use the tap water, because sometimes they'll throw too much chlorine in there too.
Yeah.
And when you keep such rare fish or strains that you just can't go out and get, to have that one error can be a big error. And so anytime you can take any error out, the better you are.
So would you caution somebody who's buying fish from you to not use their tap water if it comes from you?
No. I mean, as far as like the shrimp and the guppies and endlers, they're kept in harder TDS. So I don't think it's going to make a difference as far as the transition, or any transition really.
So how do you keep track of having over 300 tanks and how each tank is doing when it's ready for water changes?
Usually just visually. And I've gone months, like up to 7 months, without doing water changes in this whole fish room. And everything did pretty good. So it doesn't really worry me much. It's more of an aesthetic thing for us and YouTube. Besides that, I'd probably keep them a lot dirtier, because the fish love the dirty fish tanks.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look out in Mother Nature. It's dirty there.
Yeah. So for somebody that only has 9 tanks, and you know, my biggest fear when I get another one, I mean, you obviously have your houses heated instead of having heaters in all the tanks, and you've got sponge filters mostly with like big pumps running multiple tanks.
I don't have that.
You don't have that?
No.
So
there's hardly any sponge filters anymore.
So sorry, go ahead.
There's like nothing. There's no sponge filters or anything really. Nothing.
So you don't have to worry. Like I sometimes worry if I'm going to add something new, like I got to put the light on and everything. Am I going to start blowing breakers? Do you have to beef up your electrical panel?
So yeah, I have to do some rearranging to kind of get around my panels and stuff like that. I have thought about adding another one on the other side just to add more power, because this one during the winter time can kind of get pushed with our electric radiator.
Okay, so you already have an extra panel in there?
No, I need one.
Okay. So there's plans for expansion. Is that what you're saying? Like, is there
always?
How many think you? I mean, you said earlier it's an addiction. What do you think you'll top out at? How many can the house hold?
Right now I'm trying to mitigate the amount of tanks just because of the amount of work, but there is plans for more to come for sure. I could easily squeeze a lot more in here, but it's getting it done. And yes, I love your shirt, by the way.
Thanks. King Lee says that guppies need to be up at the top of there. Well, my sister-in-law gave this to me for my birthday, actually. She got this one made for me. I'd probably put clown loach at the top. I got to put clown loaches at the top, but
there you go. You can like exit out and or just get an arrow to move it.
Yeah, move things around.
Yeah,
this wouldn't be the order. I don't know. I'd probably put clown loach and then pleco too. You know, I might I might even though I have betas, I might even lose the beta and slide Corridoras in here somewhere. I don't know.
I have a feeling that shirt could forever change.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Hey, I think there's a question here that everyone really wants to know.
Okay.
And you may be sorry. I'm trying to keep up on the chat on two different things.
Yeah, I wish I could see the chat right now. I haven't figured out.
I'm pausing here on the side just to make sure, in case I miss any questions. Because if somebody's got a question in there, please throw it up there because I don't want to miss any questions from you.
And for you guys in chat, sorry I can't see your questions right now. I don't have that pulled up, or I was trying to figure it out when we first started, but then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna mess up.
Whatever. I'll read the question. So here's the question. Is there going to be a follow-up to the hit, Mr. Pleco, Where the Funk You At?
There has been talks and thoughts towards that for sure.
Okay.
But as far as execution, I don't know when that'll happen.
Okay, well, that was pretty cool. And I mean, you might get, is Jimmy going to come down and do a fish room tour at your house there too, or?
Well, Jimmy's going to be nearby now, so that should be a lot of fun.
That's doable then, right?
What will happen? He's just a hop and a skip away now.
That's awesome. So I think we've gone through, I've gone through all my questions, and I think we've gone through the questions in the chat here. Jimmy's just popping in. Lucas saying,
"Hey, Jimmy."
Oh, well, the sequel.
It was actually kind of funny. I got to mention the first time I met Jimmy. He was actually jumped in one of my live streams. I never heard of the guy before. He's like, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I'm like, yeah. He's just trying to kind of troll, I guess. And I don't know. We started talking after that and became friends. And it's weird just how both our paths have gone down. And he's went to aquarium co-ops, been doing big things. And it's really cool.
Well, actually, I had Corey on. I did an interview with Corey at the end of last year. And he had mentioned that Jimmy was maybe going to be working for you, and then he ended up working for him. Is there any truth to that story?
So yeah, I thought about it. I couldn't afford him though.
Yeah, so, he's high price.
And I know Aquarium Co-op. I know Corey would do him more justice as far as like helping him out and all that stuff. Corey's more capable in that department than I am. So as a friend too, you know, like you gotta let people grow. And like I wouldn't have been able to hold him down like Corey has, and plus he makes his own decisions.
We got one more question here. I think that maybe I would have missed it earlier. It's a question for you. Do you use the RO water or the RODI water?
So I use actually the RODI water. Now I don't think there's too much difference between the two, but it all gets remineralized, so I do use the RODI. So it goes through the RO, then a DI. Okay,
great. So Lucas, I just want to thank you so much. I mean, I actually, it's funny that Jimmy's in the chat here. I burned through so many. I did a lot of interviews, meeting these great people, and I kind of come to the end and thinking to myself that Jimmy and Lucas were two people that I really wanted to get on that I ended up not getting on, but then I ended up meeting Jimmy, so then I got to force him to come on. And then now I get to have you on, so I'm super happy with that. I'm going away for the next 3 weeks, so I won't have anything going on in the next little while. But Lucas, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yes. Thank you for having me, and I had fun doing it for sure.
Good. I'm glad you did. So normally I end with my join me next week send off, but I'm not going to be here. So Lucas, you wanna take this stream to the end here?
You want me to outro for you? I can do that.
You can close it off. I'm just going to say one last thank you to everyone for joining us today. I want to say thank you to Lucas again. Thank you to the mods for all your hard work. Thank you, Sarah, for helping this happen. And Lucas, let's take it away.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you on my channel. And I'll be watching your channel as well, Ron. And yeah, till next time, everybody. Peace. Have a great one.
Thanks, everybody.